right. Hello and welcome to our BSG final presentation. We are Team A, GCCL, and this is
Greg Ryan,
Carter Jordan,
and my name is Leo Denning.
And then Carter Adams is also on our team, but he's sick currently and he's getting a doctor's note tomorrow.
our vision to sell the best shoes on the market, desirable for all customers. Our strategy started as a low-cost strategy, but we were unsuccessful with it within the first several weeks. We noticed that basically we were competing with other teams for a low-cost strategy and that we weren't able to really compete in that way. After several weeks, we changed to a focus differentiation where we were looking at a regional because we were already so far behind that we really didn't have much cash starting out, and then we changed to a broad differentiation strategy as we gained more cash so that we could compete with the other companies that were much larger and already more established as a broad strategy. We started early investing in improvements to reduce cost and continued doing that throughout the game. Initially, we started with a few styles and chose standard materials, but as our strategy changed, so did our materials and styles. We also learned to advertise later in the game. We used digital marketing to increase our SQ rating and compete with price. We held prices and overall general strategy constant between the different geographic markets, never offered free. We did offer a free during the beginning. I took that off. We did have free shipping in certain areas and spent $20 million on a search engine advertising yearly.
Okay, and then starting off with our strategy slides. So for the wholesale market, we kept wholesale prices significantly under internet market prices. That way we tried to have those wholesale warehouses do pretty well. We kept pricing similar across all geographic regions. We offered a $5 to $7 mail-in rebate depending on the time of the year, and depending on what year we were at. We offered $4,000 per outlet and retailer support yearly. So, try and get some outlets to try and pick up some, benefits and all that. And then we did not use the celebrity appeal that much because as we figured out, the ones that we did try and target didn't end up having a factor at all in the market, but the ones that did were the ones who were just charging too much to even want to benefit. So for our private label strategy, we focused on standard material sourcing to compete in a low-cost basis. After year 15, we decided to end private label operations as they were not accelerating our overall business. They were not benefiting. And then for the cost of private label, shoes were nearly half of non-private label shoes in internet and wholesale strategy. So, our private label was always a smaller section of it. So we figured we might as well just stop producing those. And then for our production strategy, specifically in our North American facilities, our workers were compensated extremely well with good overtime pay. Compared to the industry average, we were paying almost double what our competitors were, and we were a lot more productive because of those incentives. Also, we can look at our foreign regions and look for potential to expand our productivity similar to how we approach North America. So in Latin America or in the Asian continent, we can work to increase those production capabilities at our factories.
Yeah, so taking a little bit of a look into our finance strategy, initially we decided to take out a $10 million loan to finance our growth strategy of being a low-cost differentiator. Obviously, Greg talked a little bit about it a little bit earlier, but we ended up needing to change that overall strategy. And in doing so, we decided to sell off most of our stock in order to pay off the debts in the following years. We are under the assumption that since we are a low-cost provider, we did not want to have too much debt on our balance sheet, as that may have been a deterrent to potential shareholders. Something we'll talk about a little bit later in this is about share repurchases, but we were very active in that market, and I think it is reflected in our stock price, but that was appreciated by shareholders as well. Overall, we didn't decide to pay a dividend. We wanted to use our cash to reinvest into the business. We thought that it was more important to actually look at the growth of our company versus the competitors instead of returning capital to shareholders in the early years of the business. Now, I would say if we were to operate for another 15 years, I don't think we would do a similar finance strategy. I think we would really focus on holding our market share, which is another thing that we'll talk about next slide. But holding our market share and then hopefully returning some capital to shareholders in the latter years of the next 15. And then looking at the actual competition within the internet market, wholesale market, and private label market, this was a pretty interesting thing to look at, as obviously this is a very real strategic map that you can see in the bottom, but this was created by the BSG game. We are the dark blue, so you can see us in the top right of really both the internet and the wholesale. But I would say the biggest competition within the internet market was company B, C, and G, which is actually kind of funny that it's BCG. For the wholesale market, it's B, E, and H. And then for the private label market, this was interesting because if you look at the market share for our industry, it looks like no companies were actually either they were unable to penetrate or they didn't want to penetrate the actual private label market. And so we only saw company I had a 9.9% market share, with the rest having really no market share. As we said previously, we ended our private label operations in year 15, so maybe some other companies followed that path. Looking at our competition a little deeper, we really focus on increasing our net revenues and profits, as that would give us a step in the right direction. For internet marketing, we should look into trying to increase our OPM in North America, Europe, and Africa, and Asia Pacific. In the wholesale marketing, we can catch up in our competitors if we increase it to the same 3 regions, if that makes sense. And then for private label operations, we did not utilize much in our company's approach, but going there were no other competition in the space that would be a good place for us to look. It's really just if consumer demand is there. Before
our team tried to compete on price using cheaper materials, manufacturing less ads, but this did not work. We weren't gaining any market share really, so we changed to a differentiation strategy. This allowed us to gain more market share, and we already had invested heavily in our manufacturing, like robotics and other things, to cut down our costs. Learn. To use endorsements to help us. And just getting better, to improve our image. And so this drew in more customers. By the end, we had the highest revenues. Our initial low-cost strategy meant that we had the cash basically to switch into a differentiation strategy, but it took us a while. As I said, it was a slow process.
Yeah, so taking a look at how how our strategy actually went into fruition with numbers. At the top left, you can see revenues. We had lots of growth between year 14 and year 18. Saw a little bit of pullback into year 20, but I think this is one of the charts that really shows where our differentiation strategy went to work. Like we were saying, the first few years, a lot of the other companies in the industry were employing this low cost, kind of like we were, and you can see we were not necessarily growing. And then once we kind of flipped to broad differentiation, we saw that hockey-shaped graph. I think something that really allowed us to grow was our credit rating. We had great credit really throughout the latter years to take out debt. We had good return on equity, and our earnings per share continued to grow. Saw a little bit of cyclicality in the industry. As you can see, pretty much every third year was a little bit lower. So maybe that's a long-term trend that we would have to look at, or something within the business. But now looking at our actual stock price, a lot of years where our shareholders will be very happy, and 2 years where our shareholders might be a little mad at us. We had 2 years of gains more than 100% and 2 years of losses more than 50%. So I think overall, if you're a long-term investor, you're going to be happy, but maybe if you timed our stock price wrong, you might not be super happy. But looking at our overall image rating, it seems as though once we switch from our low cost to our broad differentiation, the market really took that better. You can see really like kind of in year 13 to 14 is our inflection. And we've had a 100 image rating since year 18. And then going into our performance targets for the next 2 years, I would like to see our company growing from, I believe we are at about $7.50 of earnings per share. Next year, we expect $9, and in year 22, it would be $10. Return on equity improving to 18% and 22%. Credit rating and image rating staying flat. We expect A plus and an image rating of 100. And then our stock price, of course, we want it to go up and to the right. And so we're going to target $100 in year 21 and $115 in year 22. But with that is our presentation. We really enjoyed the BSG experience. It was fun. I think we learned a lot.
Yeah, it was interesting.